Hi, welcome to CoDesign Conversations. I'm Maria Villafranca, the Executive Director of CoDesign Collaborative. We are a remote-first nonprofit with the mission to inspire social change through the transformative power of design. If you're not already a member, please go ahead and become one now. One housekeeping note, please go ahead and leave your comments, ask questions at the bottom of this event page, and then we will answer them at the end. I want to take the time to extend a special thank you to our partner Coforma for their support of this program, as well as incredible Amy Haymans for shaping this series to be as relevant, inspiring, and critical as it will be. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much, Maria, and welcome everybody who is joining us. We're so happy you're with us today to discuss such an important topic. I'm Amy Haymans. I'm the founder of Beneficent, which is a future vision and social impact consultancy, and so happy to be hosting this first conversation, inaugural conversation in a series of conversations that are going to focus on the approach that public, private, and nonprofit organizations are taking to deliver impact and outcomes. So exciting cross-sector conversations that are outcomes focused. So a great many federal workers who are highly experienced, skilled, dedicated, having committed their lives to public service, many of them have been displaced. And many of us know someone who has been impacted, or even dozens of people personally who have been affected. We know their stories, how great they are, how their lives have been changed by this. And that's multiplied by the thousands, of course. The gravity of the situation and the impact to good folks is definitely felt. Personally, my team at MadPow, where I worked for 20 years, we had done some great work for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And I was very proud of that work, helping military service members with their financial well-being. And to hear that CFPB was closing and friends of mine were being displaced, it was very disappointing, to say the least. And it made me want to do something about it. We have seen maybe symbolism associated with this, like Phoenix rising from the ashes is a powerful metaphor. Whether in how individuals are reinventing themselves, or some of them taking a break for self-care, or even recommitting themselves more fervently to public service in a new capacity. There are individuals in the spirit of public service who go above and beyond to scale their impact and to support displaced federal workers and help them find a new direction. And so we're going to hear today from inspiring people who have done just that, from different angles, from different types of organizations, including state government, nonprofit, and grassroots social organizations. So I'd like to, without further ado, welcome our guest, Miranda Martin. She is the Director of Talent Management for the Pennsylvania Office of Administration. Rob Bronson, former head of design at 18F and the founder of Portland Digital Corps. And Brian Whitaker, who founded Humans of Public Service. So let's dive in. I'd like to have you share, please, what inspired you to get into public service and what motivates you to stay there? Brian, how about you?
Sure. So I grew up in a family of public servants. It was sort of like the family business. It wasn't really anything that we talked about around the dinner table, but it was something that everyone did. So my dad was in the Air Force. My mom taught. I have 3 older sisters, a nurse, a retired police officer, and then a former teacher. So when I had the opportunity to leave the private sector and join the General Services Administration, I couldn't pass it up. I always struggled with how can I make a good living and do the most good? And I found like the federal government was a great place to do that at scale. So what sort of keeps me there is really just so many unsung heroes that, keep our lives running behind the scenes, whether it's managing and taking care of the potholes that we avoid or have filled on our way to work, or just keeping the water running and clean in our specific neighborhoods. I think celebrating those unsung heroes and making sure that people still want to serve is is critical. So that's what keeps me there.
I love it. How about you, Miranda?
Well, I didn't have any family or friends who worked for government, so it really wasn't on my radar as an employer. I knew services government provided, but I didn't really think of it as an employer. But fortunately, when I was in college, a recruiter from Pennsylvania state government came and spoke at one of my classes and talked about this program that was available and kind of sold me on all the benefits of working for the state government. So I applied on a whim. I was lucky enough to be selected. And I quickly learned, though, when I started with the state, just how far reaching the impact is and how much it impacts, everyone in your community. Like, as you mentioned, potholes, clean water, like it's touches every area of your community. So that's really what keeps me here, is knowing just how much of an impact you have on your community, on your state. And I have found that people who are here because they want to be, they're passionate about serving and wanting to give back. So it has, I started right out of college when I was 22, and here I am 20 plus years later, still loving it.
Yeah, I love the word service, servant. It's clear it's a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
Brian talking about unsung heroes. You're talking about, the things we all rely upon that we might take for granted. So I appreciate you all for what you do behind the scenes. How about you, Ron? How did you get in, and what keeps you here? What keeps you wanting to do it?
I think, similar to Brian's story, my dad spent 46 years as a federal employee. He just retired a couple of years ago. And so, I grew up sort of seeing this. I think that it was not something that was on my radar at all. I'd say, though, that, I went from local government to the federal government. And I like telling the story about being in local government, a town of 80,000 people, managing the digital properties and all of that. But my friends would tell people that I worked for the city at parties, and folks would come to me and say, "Hey, I was on the website." They'd pull up their phone and it's like, "Hey, this thing doesn't work." And I'm like, "Oh, I take care of that." Or, "Hey, let me talk to so and so." And I really loved this conduit that you were for folks to their government, this bridge that folks just didn't have because it seems so distant. When those city halls right downtown, they could walk there. And so I really like that's a microcosm of what kept me in the work, is being able to demystify a lot of what can seem very scary for folks. We live in these spaces and it seems pretty it's you just do this, and you do that, and you do this. But for folks who don't have that everyday exposure to the work, it can seem very daunting. And so I think that being able to do that at scale, I think obviously is something that bring those stories to scale, I think is what motivates me to want to continue in this kind of work.
Yeah. And how about you, Ron, when you started hearing about displacement of federal workers, it affected you a lot. Can you tell me about, when you first realized the extent of things and what went through your mind?
Well, this is a recorded call, so I'll give you all the nice version, but I'll say that I was living through it. So I lived through this experience as someone who was riffed on a Saturday morning in the middle of the night, unexpectedly in some ways. That I got to see sort of the rapid how this evolved from being something that seemed like, okay, it's another transition, to something that's very different than a normal transition, having been through a couple of these now. And so seeing colleagues decide to say, "You know what, I'm out, I'm not going to do this. I didn't sign up for this," was dispiriting. And obviously then had to feel sort of on the back end of that, not great. It just shouldn't be controversial to show up and to do good work for the public, right? And so to have that sort of work be villainized did not feel great, not just for me, but like for all my colleagues who are out there, who were folks that I learned so much from, so many people over the years who were lifelong civil servants who could have left and done other things and chose it, so committed to the work. Folks that, the funniest thing about this, to answer the question more directly, the funniest thing about this is folks that maybe I found to be a little bit more difficult in the work. And folks who were always sticklers for the rules and you have to do it this way every time. The folks who drove me a little crazy in my job because I just wanted to do the thing. When all this stuff started to happen, I identified with those folks more, but also the conversations I had with those folks were very much like, no, this isn't the right way to do this. Hey, I understand how this is supposed to work and this isn't right. And I don't like how that is. And I really have really respected their consistency over that time, but also made us bond more in ways where it's like, oh, I see where you're coming from. And they're like, well, I see you're coming from. And so interesting how turmoil and chaos and things like that can make you understand where folks who've been the baton passers, the stewards of this work for so long, across administrations, across eras, across time, were the ones who were keeping the lights on, who were paying the bills so that states and local governments could do the things they do. Because that's the other thing about this at the federal level, is that it fuels so much, and we're seeing it fuels so much of what happens at the other levels. And when you don't have those folks in those places, where the gaps begin to start, we'll start to see those cracks more and more.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. Miranda, you all in the state of Pennsylvania took pretty decisive and quick action and led an extensive initiative. I'd love to hear how that happened from inception to, now it's live and public. Can you share the journey with us?
Yeah, be happy to. In March of this year, our Governor Josh Shapiro, signed an executive order. It was aimed at recruiting former federal employees to fill the critical vacancies that we have in Pennsylvania state government. And our goal was to make it easier for those job seekers to apply for our vacant positions that align with their federal work experience. So that was the goal. The challenge that we initially faced, though, in implementing this is that our classification plan in Pennsylvania has over 2,000 unique job titles. The federal government's classification plan is massive, too. And the naming conventions for these jobs are not always the same. So we needed to find a way to make it easy for federal workers to look at our vacancies and know where they would fit in our system. In many cases, federal employees do the same or similar work as Commonwealth employees. You have like engineers, nurses, accountants. It's pretty clear cut. But in some cases, it may not be intuitive or straightforward for federal workers to know which Pennsylvania state jobs are relevant to them. So we needed to find a way to align these two massive classification plans. To make that happen, we leveraged generative AI. We analyzed thousands of federal job titles and their descriptions, and we created a crosswalk to the equivalent positions in Pennsylvania state government. And this allowed us to say, this particular job in federal government is equivalent to this other particular job in Pennsylvania state government, even when the names may sound dissimilar. We knew that there was a critical need to call this out to federal workers who may not have just on their own realized all the Commonwealth jobs that they would qualify for. And we also knew it was a critical call out to our own HR team members who would be reviewing applications and trying to determine who met our requirements. So not only do we tackle this project of cross-referencing these two massive classification systems, but the executive order that Governor Shapiro signed in March takes it a step further by allowing us to consider relevant federal work experience as the same as Commonwealth state government experience. So what that means is, for our vacancies that list, say, 1 year in a Commonwealth position as a way to qualify for a job, we can take federal experience 1 year in that similar or same job as if they were state employees, and they can qualify for our jobs. So this really opens up a lot more doors for the federal workers looking for more employment opportunities. So we needed to communicate this to everyone, and to highlight this, we launched a dedicated page on our employment website that is tailored to job seekers with federal work experience. And this page includes that crosswalk of some of the federal jobs that align with our top recruitment needs. It has information about our hiring process in Pennsylvania state government, because it's different than the federal government. It talks about the benefits you receive as a state employee, and it has resources for contacting our recruitment team if people need some more personal, one-on-one assistance or guidance. And then the last thing we did was we updated our employment applications to include a new section where applicants can highlight their federal experience. And this allows our evaluation team to very quickly determine if the federal employees have the appropriate experience to qualify for our state jobs. So it was a massive effort to do all these things, and we did it pretty quickly.
Yeah, from start to finish, how long did it take?
Oh, just a few weeks. And we got to work prior to the executive order being signed. We were already kind of doing this research about the federal classification system. And we were able to move so quickly, really because we utilized AI in part. That was an amazing tool that helped us to really tackle this project at the speed of business. It would have taken much longer to do that cross-matching between the state and federal classification systems without using AI. I mean, I'm talking months. It would have been months and months of doing that research and cross-matching versus weeks.
Amazing. Brian, how about you from the moment when you had the idea and you're like, because the thing about an idea is it kind of like nags you. It might even annoy you. It's like, oh no, this thing. Oh no, it's too good. Oh no, I feel sick. I think I need to do something. Like from the moment you had the idea to how you actually made it happen. Can you describe the journey for us?
Oh yeah, it was a road. Actually interacted with a lot of different people to explore this idea. One, partnering with other nonprofits to say, I have this concept. Would you be interested in trying this? Two, actually, instead of just doing a virtual approach, trying to coordinate with photographers in different cities to actually take pictures. Being mindful of the fact that I had a day job and doing all that coordination would have been impossible. I really had to pull together a proof of concept of what I was talking about and how it worked. And like one of the tricky things about being in the federal space, it's a very conservative and risk-averse environment, and very much so one of asking for permission before you ask for forgiveness. But I felt so strongly about this. I launched before even approaching my leadership or ethics office about it, rather than sort of letting my nerves get the best of me and try to describe actually what I'm doing. I showed them. I said, look at these 3 stories about these public servants. What do you think? Is it okay if I continue to do this? They're like, oh, this is great. As long as you don't, approach any of your public servants at your specific agency, like go forth and continue. But I'd say it was probably like 3 to 6 months. The idea shifted from like really trying to approach people's minds to think differently to actually inspiring folks to feel proud about public servants and the way that they approach their work. So it took some time, but I wouldn't change a thing.
What surprised you most along that journey?
I think it's just how good it feels to celebrate people. And I think how I actually interviewed someone and they said like gratitude is the least developed like spiritual trait. And I was like, whoa, that hit me on all sorts of levels. I think it isn't every day where you get to receive praise from your colleagues, but when you share a post on Instagram about why somebody served, the highlight of their career and what they do, just seeing the comments come in about, hey, it's been such an honor to work with you and please keep going and doing what you're doing. Like I never really imagined that side of things, and how just sharing someone's story and maybe elevating it really allows for others to lean in and celebrate them too. But that's the joy that it gives me and really encourages me to keep going.
So through Humans of Public Service, you're celebrating these individuals for all that they've accomplished and their contributions. Do you think that might start to shift the mindset around how the public sees public service?
That's the goal. I mean, ultimately, I really want to go further. Like doing it online with like a static story is one thing. But if I can execute my vision, I want to go hyper local. Let me pick a city like the city of Baltimore, interview 20 to 30 public servants in person in their city, and then ideally celebrate them amongst their community, but also with that culture. How can I make sure there's like some appetizers or snacks with Old Bay? How can I make sure that like there's crab served? How can I really honor the city and its public servants in the right way, incorporating that culture? That's really what I want to do.
That sounds delicious. I'd like to ideate
Yeah.
on that with you.
Let's go.
Yeah, right? So Ron, you started your initiative, Portland Digital Core, with an experimental mindset, not knowing what would happen. So tell me about the journey for you. What happened and what did you learn, most importantly?
So for the record, the Portland Digital Core is done. It was a short-term digital sprint. We started it in March. I got the idea on a Friday. I launched it on a Saturday. Well, technically I launched it on a Monday, but the site was up on Saturday. And the idea was definitely a reaction to sort of feeling a little bit like, okay, I was on administrative leave for this 60-day period, and part of it was like, all right, I'm still being paid by the public, so like I want to do something, and it was like in my head a marketing pitch of like, this is me giving back. What can I do? So initially I thought, well, okay, I could just bring some folks in and we could work on some stuff. And so that was really the idea. Is I thought we would just be me and a handful of folks at a table somewhere, helping a nonprofit or two with some things. And instead, there was a big response of a lot of folks who had jobs and who were just like, yeah, this sounds like, I'm doing this thing, but I would love to give back and use my skills to help. Never thought about civic tech, didn't even know what that is, but this sounds like something I can help with. And so what did we learn? We ended up helping out 6 different nonprofits. There were a lot of folks who called for advice about trying to do their own version of this. And so the idea here was to, again, help nonprofits with sort of small scoped digital projects, whether it's websites or advice around digital presence, one-off types of things you could do in a 4 to 8 week period, nothing that was super big. And so that constrained the audience quite a bit, but it just didn't want something this is an unfunded mandate. I'm just funding this out of pocket. With a little bit of help from some nonprofits that I was part of. And so, yeah, it was really good to see the people a lot of folks together. Folks were interested in the social aspects of it quite a bit. So we did actually had about every month we ended up having meetups where folks were just social. Folks showed up and got to talk to each other and meet other people. There was a lot of interest in that, which didn't surprise me, but also was not the explicit intent of this. But it ended up being a core piece of it was getting people together. Launching it with a deadline, knowing we were going to end it, was a little controversial for some folks. Like, well, why are you ending it? Well, it's because it needs to end. But I think it gave folks who were participating a milestone. They knew, okay, in June, this is going to be done. So I can sprint for 60 days with you on this. And so a lot of the folks who were involved in helping organize it with me, they made it the whole way through because they knew we were gonna sunset it. I think as opposed to if it had been like a long-term thing, I think the energy would have petered out.
Interesting. So it sounds like folks that hadn't done civic design before getting involved, like that was surprising. And then the community aspect that formed around it was surprising. And then the expectation setting that, hey, this is going to end, so folks could like be all in, that contained it a little bit. So if you said folks have been approaching you like, hey, I want to do this, what advice would you have for folks that want to do something like this?
The biggest thing that we learned was if you're doing a thing like we did, if you want to copy the same model, it's find the projects first and then find the humans, rather than what I did where it was the other way around, because we had a lot of people interested in helping out and I had to go find the projects. And because of the scope, that was it ended up working out okay, but it definitely was sort of a thing that I probably would have done in reverse. I'd say the other thing is that with any volunteer-driven project, people can come and go as they want to. So you kind of always need more people for things than you think you do, because you're just gonna have more folks. But I think the biggest thing I'd say is it's okay to try something. What I would tell the team a lot, well, 2 things. One, when I started this, about 5 or 6 days in, I'm like, okay, this is too big for me to run alone. I need help. And which was a big recognition, because you totally could hero it out. You're like, I'll just do it all. It's like, no, you're not gonna do it all. And so I realized pretty quickly that I'm organizing this, I'm not running it. And I think the distinction helped me to delegate and to just not even delegate, to hand off. Project teams ran their own things. I checked in and made sure things were good, but I didn't micromanage any of the stuff they were doing, because they had ownership over what they did. That's a lot of detachment, especially when you're doing the work that the world that Brian and I have come from. We used to work together. You used to get a lot more hands-on insight into these things because you don't want it to fail. And I had to just hand off of that and say, well, they're pros. They know what they're doing, and it all worked out pretty well. I think the other thing is, I think just really that part of it is just making sure you kind of understand the role. And I told the team a lot, this is an experiment. No matter how it works out, this is an experiment. We're going to story tell no matter what happens with all of this. There are going to be things we're going to wish we had done differently. Document them so someone else can learn from what we did. And I think that experimentation, that communicating that constantly, was really, really, I think, a way for us to free ourselves of feeling we need to be perfect about every aspect of what happened, because, again, we just kind of made this up. So I'd say that just be willing to try some stuff. You can try again. If it doesn't work, you try something else.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes me think about, sometimes when we're starting something new, we're like, oh, what if it fails? And it's like the flip. Well, what if it does really, really well? And it's so successful that you're going to need help. Like, how are you going to handle that? So, speaking of success, I'm so curious, Miranda, what you all learned in the state of Pennsylvania around this, like any outcomes or stories or like exciting surprises that happen along the way?
Well, the efforts are working. We've seen since Governor Shapiro signed that executive order back in March, we've received thousands of applications from current or former federal employees. And Pennsylvania state agencies have hired over 340 individuals who have federal work experience to fill some of our critical existing vacancies throughout Pennsylvania. So it's definitely working. We were fortunate, though, that we had Governor Shapiro himself as a platform for this. He announced this initiative during one of our Commonwealth job fairs in Harrisburg, and we were able to get national and statewide media coverage that reached millions of people. And we've been very deliberate in trying to communicate to get the word out about our opportunities and how we can help federal workers. So we're active on social media. We're active with organizations like Civic Match and Partnership for Public Service. We've been expanding our recruitment efforts through virtual and in-person job fairs that are geared specifically for federal workers. I think we've hosted or participated in at least 6 events so far this year for them. And we're planning another event in October that'll be in the southeast region of Pennsylvania. So it's been a huge success. And I guess looking forward, we know that the federal deferred resignation program is going to expire, and we are anticipating another influx of former federal workers into the labor market. So we plan to continue our outreach and our engagement with this population, and we'll help continue to address any gaps in our workforce and also simultaneously help serve our fellow Pennsylvanians.
It's just so exciting how nimbly you were able to move and the impact that you've already made. It's extremely inspiring and encouraging. And I'm a big fan of collective action. And I can't help but notice, Brian was talking about getting local, he's celebrating the stories of public workers. You're giving, new job opportunities to displaced federal workers. Ron is providing opportunities to folks who may have been displaced or may just be looking for meaning and impact, and to do something good for the people in their community. So I wonder if any of you have thoughts on how initiatives, cross-sector initiatives like this could kind of connect up, or even, people such as yourselves could find opportunities to collaborate. Any thoughts, Brian? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, after this call, I'm on my way up to Pennsylvania. So my idea is, why don't we do some promotion of these hiring managers, like a 60 to 90-second clip on Humans of Public Service about the work, why it's important, why they serve, and what keeps them up at night. I don't think everybody really gets that opportunity to get to see and sort of feel the energy of their hiring manager before they apply. So I think that could be a nice, cool spin and innovation. But other than that, there's great opportunity to sort of collaborate. I think there's a couple organizations that I've been in conversations with that, similar to Miranda, have spun up initiatives where they're highlighting profiles of former government employees, and actually they're called formergov.com. Another one is Feds Forward, that engages with former federal employees and talks to them about how they can just serve differently from a federal government role. So I think organizations are already sort of forming and doing it. It's just a matter of how do we come together for greater impact.
Love it. How about you, Miranda? Ron, what do you think? Collective action, collective vision.
Yeah, I love that. And I, come on over to Harrisburg when you're in town. I do think it's helpful, like having this platform and organizations like yours who are helping to bridge these connections. So I'd love to continue building upon this further.
I just want to give all of you kudos. It's easy to get stuck in, things being depressing, disappointing, upsetting. And, to hear about, gratitude and celebration and initiative and experimentation and learning. You all are brave, number one, for taking action when it's difficult to do, and inspiring and bringing hope to folks, number two. So, with that in mind, with the people who may be joining us in mind, what would you ask this audience? They may never have worked in public service and may be interested, or they may just have an idea that they haven't pushed forward yet. Any words of wisdom for them? Ron, we'll start with you.
I think it's super crucial to look outside your window or take a walk around the block. Like, so much of this stuff is so focused on these meta narratives that are very important, but don't, like, that there are problems just outside your doorstep that you can help fix. Ways you can get involved. Like, I've been on various city commissions. Your voice, your time, your effort, your energy, that thing you thought that you wrote about on some website somewhere next door, Reddit or someplace, like, what if you actualize that and we're part of a conversation? Because right now it's the same people having the same conversations, it's the same folks doing that work. Maybe you being a part of that conversation. Bring a neighbor, bring a friend. Like, these are the ways that these things get. But the bottom line is that if you want it to change, especially if you feel strongly about it, you want it to change, and you know other folks who also want things to change, the way to do that is to find, maybe that's just money, but like, whatever it is, figuring that out. And I think that that's really what this is about. Like, whether you are a Fed, you weren't a Fed, you're never going to work in government, doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, we're people who live in these communities that we work and we live in and we serve. To be part of those conversations, to help drive and shape the world we want to live in, the communities that you want to live in, is by using your voice, by using your time, catalyzing others. It sounds scary and it's like hard work, but really, and it is, but all hours of the month. Cool. We can find a thing for you to do with that. So that's my way to, there you go.
Yeah, you make me think of the phrase, nothing worth doing is easy. So it's good words of wisdom there. Miranda, how about you? Any kind of call to action for our viewers here?
Well, I would say if you know anyone who has been impacted by what's happening in the federal government and they're looking for other employment opportunities, send them our way. Pennsylvania is hiring. You can go to employment.pa.gov to check out all the opportunities that we have. We post new vacancies every day. So, check us out.
Love it. And Brian, how can people learn more about Humans of Public Service?
Oh, yeah, we're easy to find. We've got a website, but we actually started sharing our stories on Instagram. I was honestly about to quit after that first month. I don't think people go to Instagram to hear about career aspirations and those that serve. I think it's more for, other facts and tidbits. But a friend of mine said, hey, move on over to LinkedIn. And sure enough, it took off. So humansofpublicservice.org. We're also on LinkedIn and Instagram, so check us out.
Nice. And Ron, Portland Digital Core, it's over. It was an experiment, but how can people learn more and how can they keep track of you? Because you're always up to something interesting, if I might say.
You can, the Digital Core website does have you can actually go to the site and see the projects that were produced. So you can go to digitalcorepdx.org. And I think that's right. And you'd be able to see the projects that existed. It's .com, sorry. I bought it and you think I know. digitalcorepdx.com. As we're also on LinkedIn, you can find links and stuff, and I'm online everywhere. You can find me. Just Google Ron Bronson. You can find me online. I'm everywhere.
Amazing. So we are getting questions flowing in from the audience. One of them is, given today's heavily charged political climate, how budgets can radically change from one executive to the next, how do you convince govies to stick around public service, especially when As we just saw, LGBTQ plus health benefits got slashed. The old trade-off of traditionally lower salary but more stable employment seems to no longer be the case. So any thoughts on how to get folks to stick around?
Is this for me? As a
Anybody who wants to answer, just give me a wave. Yeah.
I mean, for state government, I mean, I would say that changes in an administration are part of government work, but they're part of government at all levels, local, state, federal. But you even have that in the private sector. So if someone wants to try the private sector or nonprofit work as an alternative, companies are bought and sold, CEOs come and go. But a lot of the job seekers we encounter are ones who are interested in a job where they can make a difference. And that is something that we can offer in government. And the comment about, traditionally lower salary and much stable employment is no longer the case. I would argue that it is still the case. Majority of our workforce transcends administrations, and we have amazing retirement packages and benefits, and coupled with our salary, it's a pretty great place to work. So, I mean, I've been here 23 years now, and I have no desire to leave. So,
and I'm going to stay with you, Miranda, because we are having folks wondering, how do you convince people to relocate their families, or is Pennsylvania welcoming to digital workers?
I haven't really heard that from federal workers. As far as relocating, it's like any other job. If you're interested in working for us, you may need to come to Pennsylvania, but not all of our jobs even require residency. Some of our jobs, there is no Pennsylvania residency requirement. Others there are, or you can apply and then eventually move if you're selected. But I haven't really heard that this is like a barrier for employees at all, or potential employees.
Oh, right on. Getting Govies to stick around. I want to hear from you, Ron and Brian. What are your thoughts?
I'll hop in real quick. So I can't say anybody should stick around. I started my career in the private sector. I had a boat loan to student loans. Like, I couldn't reasonably take a public sector job with the amount of student loan debt that I had. So like, it's truly a case by case basis. If you can make it work with your family or your partner, your spouse, or what have you, if you feel safe, if you don't feel safe, like, there's a variety of factors. So I'm not really here to convince anybody. I think even in these moments when, there's a federal government hiring freeze, I think we need to just talk about service in general. I think, like Ron hit the nail on the head, right? Like, think about what you can do in your community. Just look outside of your window. How can you still be a person that likes to serve, but not necessarily be in service in the federal government? So I'd say think about service a little bit differently, figure out what works for you and allows you to remain healthy and sane in your work environment, and do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then if there are initiatives like the one that Ron stood up, where you can be having a day job that pays the bills while also contributing to your community through efforts like that. I know a lot of people who want to give back. They want to volunteer. They're not even sure like where to start, where to go, what to do. So there seems to be some opportunity there. Thoughts, Ron?
Echoing what Brian said, I think that this is a really precarious time with a lot of complexities to it, and I think people need to, like with any job, like you said, you get laid off from a private job, just weighing all the options and different complexities in your situation and trying to make the best informed choice for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, this isn't the only way to serve. There are lots of different ways that you could serve.
Absolutely. So we have a question about learnings. What is one lesson you learned through this work that you wish you knew at the beginning? How about you, Brian?
It's a tough one. The power of endurance, right? You can have all the energy in the world. You could have the best idea in the world, but it's not easy. It takes time. Support's going to ebb and flow, especially in like a volunteer-based organization. And to be honest, I think if I tried to do humans of public service earlier in my career, I wouldn't have had the network. I wouldn't have had the connections of the amazing designers, the friends that were willing to put their story together and actually talk about a highlight in their career. The partnerships with different nonprofits that were willing to have me as a speaker or to amplify my work. So I think it's great to have a good idea, but the two things that you really need to have to get that idea off, hat tip to Ron, a good designer, and then also a really broad network and some endurance.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Miranda?
I think where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, this seemed to be like a massive project when Governor Shapiro, made it clear he wanted us to do what we can to help federal workers. And we seem to have a system that maybe wasn't initially designed to make it easy to transition federal workers into state government, but we looked at it creatively and found a way to make it happen. And so I think it's just, this whole initiative has shown me that there is always a solution to be had. You just need to be, like you said, persevere, be brave enough to see it through, collaborate with as many people as you can, but there is a way to get to yes and a way to get things done, even if it may not seem easy or intuitive at the start. You just, there is a creative solution out there.
I love that. Ron, you get the final word here.
I would say that, really echoing again what Brian said, which is that a lot of these ideas that I get, like you get these ideas and you may not have the time or the resources or the networks to amplify and have that thing succeed. And sometimes it's like, it's okay to, I'm just gonna pivot this. I'll say that you don't have to always start a thing. Sometimes it's okay to join stuff and to be part of somebody else's thing, to learn. Like sometimes everybody wants to just redundantly create new things all the time. And it's okay to just get involved in a thing. Now, mind you might see it and be like, I can make that better and then do that later. That's great too. Yeah. But there's so much value in being able to team up and not feeling like you always have to get the credit all the time. I'm not saying don't take credit for things, but just being able to get involved and be like, all right, I rolled my sleeves up, I brought a shovel. What do we need to do here? And I think doing that over time allows you to build what you need to be able to do things you want to do. And that's a lesson definitely I feel like I've learned over the years. My younger years didn't know as much of. I feel like now I have a much better understanding of. So I think I've learned that.
Well, thank you all for being a silver lining and certainly brightening up my world, as well as everybody who tuned in today. I thank you so much. And I will hand to Maria.
Thank you so much. This was such an inspiring conversation. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Ron. Very much thank you to Coforma. Thank you to everyone who's watching us on LinkedIn Live. Please join us for our next event of this series, which will be on September 9th. I just posted it, on the topic of large-scale modernization efforts. And you can also learn more about our organization at codesigncollaborative.org. Thank you again.